to the Press Club. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. From politics to water. Jason, I went down to the Grace intake. And now I've been to Grace, the treatment plant, before. I went to the Grace intake for the first time last week. And man, was I amazed, because
it was the Grace intake is fairly new.
Well, they did a new Grace intake. There's an old Grace intake that keeps on giving trouble, because every time it rains, that place just gets silted over. And
so the new Grace intake was meant to take care of that problem.
Right, but the capacity is from a tributary on that main river. Yeah. So the old intake is on the big river. The new intake is on a tributary. So you know the volume of water you can get from that intake, it's much less. So therefore it cannot supply the entire Vieux Fort community or southern community. But rain had fallen a few days before we got there. And so when we went down the river, I must tell you, to begin, man, we drove and I thought I was heading back to Castries. My goodness, this thing is way inland. And I mean, people need to understand those things to appreciate the challenges that Wasco goes through to provide water.
On a daily basis.
So we finally got there, probably about 45 minutes driving inland.
After you get to Grace, 45 minutes
after you get to Grace, on bad road.
No.
Right?
It's not really road at all, is it?
Well, yeah, tracks.
Yeah.
You know? Plus, when you get there now, you can't go any further, so you had to take off your shoes, put boots on, which I had my boots because I knew I had to be prepared. I'm going to an intake.
Yeah.
And then walk down for another probably 10 minutes to get to the intake. Get to the river and to the intake. Okay?
And here we are hoping you're going to tell us something good about this new Grace intake. But
no, it's good because even when it rains, that intake stays intact. It doesn't get silted over. The old intake, it had rained a couple of days ago. And what happened was when we got to the old intake, we were just standing there like, okay, so where's the intake? You're standing in the intake. Completely silted. Completely silted. We're standing on the intake where you should have like 5 to 7 feet of water. And we're standing on the riverbed.
And you're standing on it asking, where is it? Yeah, because you just can't find it.
There's nothing there. You're just standing on the ground.
And this is the main supply for the south.
That's what it is. So, I mean...
And there's no remedy for it except the new intake?
And also trying to get Beausejour back on so that you have twice as much capacity. But what they want to do too is to build 2 gates on the old intake so that you don't need to bring excavators in there, because every time it gets to that point, you have to get excavators in there. I just explained to you how we got in there. You had to get excavators in there to pass where we could not drive.
What do you have to do, fly them in on a helicopter or what?
My goodness, I'm like, so where do they pass? Like, no, these guys...
It must take like half a day to get them up there.
If that shorter period. And when they get there now, then they have to start digging up all that silt, and throwing it over. Man, I was like, so that's what it is. So what they're doing right now, they're building 2 gates, like what they did in Canaries with the new intake in Canaries, so that when it rains heavily and there's all that siltation, or even before the silt starts to settle, they will retract the gates or pull them up and let the hydraulic forces wash the silt down the river. So it's no longer trapped behind that, in that impounding pond, behind that dam, that wall that
so you can flood the whole place, just let it empty itself out.
Let it wash itself out, and then when the rain stops and there's no more silt coming down, you put the gates back. So that means, if there is an interruption, it will be like a day as opposed to a week. And there's no need to bring in all that heavy equipment down there to get it done, which is labor intensive.
So this is at the old intake we're talking about.
The old intake.
This is one of the solutions for the old intake.
Right.
Now the new intake is in operation.
Right.
What capacity does it have to service, like what percentage of the need?
I wish I were in a position to give you that, but I think with the new intake, if it's working, if it's on alone, then Vieux Fort Town would get water. Okay, but with the old intake, then you have Moulin Sheikh, you have Black Bay, you have parts of Labrie, all these places, relying on that old intake. Now, fortunately, what the guys have told me, Ali Anthony, he's the senior engineer, and Jim King, the Southern Services coordinator, they're trying to get that project, the gates, done by April 1st. So there is some relief right now with this new intake. However, it's not complete relief. And by April 1st, fingers crossed, you'll have complete relief. And plus, with what they're doing at Beausejour to supplement the volume, then you have more water going to the south. So all those questions about water quality. Oh, and with the new intake, it's from a more pristine source. So the water quality there is immaculate. So there is no question about, you know, brown water.
The quality of the water.
Right. So all these things have been addressed, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that for many reasons. One of them is that, you know, I wouldn't get called and, you know, cussed up as much from the people of the south, you know, saying, you know, where's the water, where's the water? But it was an eye-opening experience for me going down there, because I had never been to that intake, and my goodness, it is work. It is work. So when I see these guys, I just have to
tip your hat to them,
hat,
man.
you know,
Always,
off to them.
I always, whenever I see Wasco, because I think, my God,
I have difficulty walking into there. And imagine these guys have to walk in there with pipes, and probably when the river is elevated. When we went there, there's no elevation in the river, not much rain. So, excuse me. So, you know, it was easier.
Once the gates are built on the intake, do you think the new intake as well as the old intake will be in use?
Yeah.
Or will the new intake be used as just an emergency backup?
Both will be in use. I think I need to take a break. Sorry about that. I need to take a break. We'll be right back. Let me sort out what's happening there with my throat.
This issue is very emotional for Clinton.
We'll take a short break and come back to the Wasco discussion right after this.